systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, Ship It Nation YouTube station? Back on Tuesday, 12 games. We got Coors Field. We got Wrigley Wind games. We got Sutter Health. We got Kauffman Stadium. We got offense galore. But we got pitching as well here tonight, Gyiraszin. We got a little taste of everything. Absolutely incredible weather across the slate for hitting. It's hotter than shit outside. I walked outside this morning at about 5:30 and started sweating. 5:30 a.m. started sweating. It was 80 degrees already at that point. Just kind of absolutely ridiculous out here. It's a sweat box out there. And, hey, that means the ball's going to be flying. Runs are going to be scored. And that's what we care about for MLB DFS here. Bring you in, man. We got 12 games. We got a loaded slate and ready to talk through it with you here. How we doing on this Tuesday afternoon here, brother?
Another week coming up here. Always excited to talk some baseball. Coming, like you said, the hot times. Holy shit, is it fucking hot, dude? Like, woo! I can't even, like, every time I go in a nice air conditioned building and you walk outside, it's like you can just feel it. It's like you're breathing in that fucking hot air. It's like, oh god, it's fucking hot as shit. But either way, you know what? I'd rather be really hot, honestly. Now that it's butt ass hot, I'll say it. I'd rather be butt ass hot than butt ass cold. Because I just my bones don't work well. I can come in the air conditioning down here and I'm good, and then at night it cools off a little bit. So you can deal with it for a couple days, but be a good time to own some stock in some power companies, that's for sure. Because the air conditioners are definitely working on overtime. So all those air conditioners out there, cheers to you. We definitely appreciate you all out there, but. Yeah, we got a good fun slate out here. And, I was ranting to you before we came on, like, how many more damn times am I going to get sucked into this fucking great hitting condition at Wrigley Field, Nades? It seems like I get in there, I fucking believe, I buy into this crap, the over-under goes up, and then they take a crap. Like, that whole game's just a dud, and it kicks you in the nuts. I swear, is it me? It's just got to be me. It just seems like every time I play the Cubs or the visiting team in Wrigley, and it's supposed to be increased wet hitting conditions, it's just nothing. Turns into crap. But, yeah, either way, did all right last night, though, Nades. I saw at Kirby last night with a little game stack of that late one. So that worked out all right, got me a little bit in the cash. But, we got to start over in tonight. We like you said, we got 4 decent pitchers, and I was sitting there looking at it. Like, damn, how are you going to break these 4 down? And when I was done, I was actually kind of surprised because I wouldn't even think that my man who wears the big D, I'd have in 4th overall in pitching today, Nades. But yeah, let's dive into it. We got a whole bunch of games. It's nice and cool in my basement, so we can take our time. I don't have nowhere to go. The air conditioner. I literally would put on a long sleeve shirt down here, Nades. It's cold as shit in my house.
Yeah, should be a fun one there. Our guy's down in his icebox, down in his office. And, yeah, let's go ahead and bring our slate station up here on the screen. As we break down pitching here, Gyiraszin, you talked about it. There's 4 guys, really, that kind of stand out up at the top. Brian Wu, Schlittler, Skubal, Joe Ryan. Schlittler being the most expensive guy in the slate. Also, the cash game pairing is probably going to be Cam Schlittler and Brian Wu. Wu definitely going to be the highest owned guy in the slate. He's probably going to be 60-some% again in single entry, just like we saw that of yesterday in the exact same matchup for his fellow teammate there. Wu's been really good at home. Pitch counts there. Price tag is super cheap for the matchup. We know the Angels bleed strikeouts all over the place here. So hard to really get away from Brian Wu outside of the ownership conversation there. But those kind of 4 guys are the guys I'm looking at. However, you could play some of these other guys up here. Personally, I'm kind of limiting my player pool just because I'm going to kind of spread out a little bit more on offense here. But talk to me. How do you see, obviously, Schlittler, Screwball, Joe Ryan, and Brian Wu are kind of the four main dogs that headline the slate. But Kevin Gausman back in our lives at 8,700 here. That's a fairly nice price point on him. Landon Root pitching out there in the Bay Area. Late night hammer there for him. Or not the Bay Area, excuse me. He's pitching out in Arizona. But 8,200 for him. He's been up and down this season, but he's going to be unowned. And then McLean and Jose Soriano have kind of fallen off a cliff as of late, but they're going to be low-owned pivots up at the top that nobody's really going to get to in terms of 9,500 Soriano and 9,300 McLean. Definitely a pretty loaded range up in the top tier. Some guys I'm on, some guys I'm not so interested in. Talk to me. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that top four guys, but I mean, we'll go backwards from 8K up. I mean, Wroblewski, I don't like the park. I'm just not a fan of it. Rupp, I'm not really a fan. And I should have started out by saying that overall, I think this pitching slate, as I say a lot of times, I think there's a lot of pitchers here today that can put up some pretty decent numbers. So I'm a little bit more concerned overall about pitching on normal days. I mean, you got 5, 6 guys today that I think would be SP1s on literally half of the day's slates, Nades. I think, you got some pretty good guys out there today that, two or three of them I think are going to put up some pretty decent numbers. So I wouldn't undervalue and underestimate pitching all that much. So with that being in my mind, moving on up, I think early is in play. If you wanted a low-owned pitcher, I just don't love it. He's got strikeout upside. Gausman, no thanks. I don't know. Seems like he's broke or something, Nate. He just hasn't been himself lately. I mean, he's been pretty god-awful here in recent times. Seems like last time out, he was literally the freaking chalk, if I remember right. But he's given up 6, 7, 1, 4, 4 earned runs. I mean, that's a sign of some bad things. And moving up, as you said, Wu. I mean, I really like Wu's matchup here against the Angels. We know we like to attack the Angels. We've been doing it now for almost 2 seasons. You're sitting there looking at a game against Jose Soriano, who's another great pitcher. Wu at home has been significantly better than he has been on the road. His strikeout percentage is a little bit higher at home. He's almost at 30% against righties. So I think Wu is definitely in play. You got some strikeout bats in Neto 33, Solares at 32, Adele 25, Ohape 26.5, Lau is 27. So, you got 7 bats that are 20% or higher, and then you got, 4 bats that are definitely considered strikeout bats. So we saw Kirby do it. I think Wu is definitely in play. You look at his strikeouts. He's been really good with his strikeouts, 9, 4, 7, 9. So he's had 7 strikeouts, 3 of his last 5, 2 of them being 9. So Wu is a guy that I really like, and especially at his price, I'm going to call him my favorite pitcher on the slate just because of his price, Nate. I mean, we're going to want some bats today, right? Like, in my opinion, as we were saying already, I think we're going to need some bats, but I don't want to undervalue pitching. So I think he's in a great spot. I like the upside Wu brings me. So I have him 1. McLean, man, he just hasn't been himself. I really don't like picking on the Blue Jays anyways for strikeouts. Soriano out in Seattle. I'm not paying 9.5 for a guy that just hasn't seemed to have it together here, especially his last 2 starts, giving up 9 earned runs. So I'm not in on Soriano. Now, Ryan against Houston, I think is interesting. You got a Houston team that, I don't really care for the strikeout matchup all that much. You got Trammell, I think if he's in there, you got Cam Smith. Everybody else is 22%. You got 3 guys in the teens. I just don't love the strikeout matchup here for Ryan, even though he's at 28%, both sides of the plate. Giving up a little bit of fly balls, a little bit more than you'd want to see. But I think Ryan is in a really good spot. And then you got the 2 guys up at the top, Schlittler and Screwball. Man, I mean, Schlittler should be, if you ended the season right now, he'd probably be the Cy Young for the American League, I would assume. So, Schlittler, I think him and Screwball have similar type matchups, But I'm just a little concerned since Skubal came off the IL. He just doesn't seem to be himself, like mentally and or physically, in my opinion. I mean, he has gone 6 innings, 5 innings. The 9 Ks have been there, but I mean, he's given up some power. 3 home runs his last game, 2 before that. So 5 homers in his last couple starts. So, man, I just think Schlittler, for me, I feel a little bit better with. And then you start adding in the salaries. I mean, if there was no salary, these two would be 1-2 for me. But, just considering the salary, that I get a $1,500 or $1,000 discount for Wu over a guy that hasn't really looked like himself, who's the Cy Young pitcher of the last, award winner in the AL the last 2 years. It just doesn't seem to be himself, in my opinion. So I think I just have Schlittler high, but you know what, Nades? I really think you could play any of those top 4 guys there, Schlittler, Skubal, Ryan, and Wu. As I said, I think you'd be happy with them. And then I think there's a couple guys we could play down below that have pretty decent matchups. I mean, there's a good handful of pitching, but then you got to see on the other side too. Like if you spend all that money and put in 2 high-end pitchers, are you going to be happy loading up a Twins lineup who maybe has some, or you're going to have to be a little bit different from the 3 big weather games, the Coors game, the game out in Wrigley, and then the game out there in Sacramento. So, I guess it's going to be a pretty decent slate, actually, because I think you got enough pitching to kind of balance some of the hitting, and it's going to you can't just load up on the best pitching and then load up on the better spots. Maybe on FanDuel you can a little bit easier on DK, but yeah, Nades, I think it's going to be interesting, but there's some heavy pitching up at the top. I wouldn't discount it here today.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree a lot of what you said there. For me, the SP1 on the slate is Brian Wu. It's hard to ignore. The only argument you can make against him is his ownership, but he's a better pitcher than Kirby, and he gets the exact same matchup. Kirby just mowed through this team and posted his ceiling high or season high, I think, in terms of DraftKings points. So naturally, Brian Wu, the better pitcher overall, will probably get beat up here tonight by the Angels, but really hard to get off of Brian Wu. You can play Brian Wu differently than what the field is, kind of how I'm approaching it. If I play Brian Wu, I'm just probably not going to play the Padres or the Marlins and just go to a team like the Dodgers or some of these other teams, even the Cubs on the other side of that game, the A's. Things like that is how you can play differently, because right now the chalk kind of dry run is giving me 82% Brian Wu, 57% Cam Schlittler with 82% San Diego, 30% Miami, right? So that same kind of rinse and repeat of yesterday with Kirby. Brian Wu fits that bill. 9K, still too cheap for him. His K prop is 6.5, juice to the over, 17.5 or 18.5, out prop. Best on the slate there. Very hard to get away from a guy like Brian Wu outside of ownership. Like I said, he is the SP1 for me. I love Joe Ryan on the slate, 9,700. The props are really, really good for him. You're looking at a 6.5K prop for a guy like Joe Ryan, minus 143 on the over. We know, and I trust Joe Ryan enough to not let Yordan Alvarez be the guy to beat him. The rest of that, we love right-handed pitchers against this Astros lineup. And I think Joe Ryan can go out there and mow the squad down. We just saw what Zebby Matthews did in this exact same matchup last night. Joe Ryan's a much better pitcher than Zebby Matthews and has pitching well in recent times. So Joe Ryan is my SP2 on the slate. Cam Schlittler would be SP3 for me, all the way up at the top, and then Skubal would be SP4. Really hard to get away from those 4 guys. I do think Kevin Gausman and Kennelly Early are more in play than what you had interest in. Kevin Gausman, this is just bet on talent at 8,700. He's $300 less than a guy like Brian Wu. Fraction of the ownership. You look at his K prop, 5.5, heavy juice to the over there. And I think he can go out there and post a serviceable score. It is one of the better places on the slate to pitch in, as well at Toronto at home here. So I do like Kevin Gausman in tournaments at his ownership there. I think he has a ceiling at that price point. And then Kennelly Early as well. We know the Nats are really, really good against right-handed pitching. They're not the best against left-handed pitching here. I think Early has upside here at 8,500 as a tournament differentiator, low-owned kind of guy there. But really, if you wanted to condense, I don't think you really need to navigate too far outside of Schlittler, Skubal, Ryan, and Brian Wu. I do want to add in Kevin Gausman and Kennelly early up top. I also do like some guys down below here. I'll throw it over to you. Before I do, Brandon Sproat looks really good to me personally. 6,500. Just we know what the strikeouts are in this Reds lineup. Gasser didn't have a great game, but Brandon Sproat, I think in this exact same matchup last week had 10 strikeouts, something like that. He's a serviceable enough arm. If he can control his kind of pitches and stay in that zone, pounding strikes, it's 6,500 on the slate. Even if he gives up a couple runs, I mean, you're looking at a 5.5K prop juice to the over for a guy at 6,500 on the slate when we are a 4.5K prop, minus 143 on a slate where we want to spend up for bats, right? We have Coors Field, we have the Wrigley win game, we have Sutter Health with the Dodgers out there, we have other high-powered offenses. So I do like Brandon Sproat a ton. The other guy down below, I think you could take a flyer on is Griffin Jax. Big-time pedigree. They're obviously going to hold this guy back in terms of pitch counts there. His props would suggest that, but he is juiced to the over on 14.5 outs, which Vegas has him at 5 innings. If he can get us 5 innings and pick up some strikeouts, I know the weather is really, really nice there in Kansas City, but he's got a 4.5K prop, minus 157. He's a really, really good arm. Usually you don't like playing a guy like him because of his pitch count leash, so there's downside there for sure. But like I said, I think he has upside on the slate against the Royals, so I don't mind him at a cheap price point. Outside of that, I don't love a ton of guys down here, but what do you see in the lower range?
Yeah, we're not too far off from the same page. Within mine, like I said, I was just a little concerned about pitching today just because I feel like you got to have some strikeouts today, especially what we're looking up on top. And the guys down below, I mean, as you mentioned, Sproat, he's one of my favorite pitchers on the slate, especially on FanDuel, as cheap as he is. I mean, he gets a matchup against a Reds team that's, they got a ton of Ks here in their lineups that we want to pick on. Ellie's at 28%, Eugenio's 32%, Nate Lau's 25%, Spencer Steer 27%, Stevenson's 26%, Friedel almost 24%, McLean 29%. You only got 2 bats here that, the lowest one is 18.9%, and that's Blade. And, you're just looking at the strikeouts. We know Sproat's problem has been his walks, especially to the left side. He's at almost a 14% walk rate. But, if he can keep that under control, he's been getting a mid-ground ball lean. So I don't mind that. I mean, we saw the big strikeout game last time. But I think picking on a Reds team here for strikeouts is definitely going to be in our favor. And at the price I'm getting, I feel like I can still get the same or pretty close to a guy like Sproat that's going to help me get some offenses that I like today. So he's definitely in play, especially for me on FanDuel. The other guy, like you mentioned, Griffin Jax, you get a Kansas City team that, if you want to pick on the Royals, I just generally haven't really, like to do that here. But, the Royals do have some, a couple high strikeout bats, Jensen, Caglione. They're all, and this John Rave, if he's in there, they're all high strikeout bats. Jax has been pretty good, especially even against lefties. So I think he's in play as far as strikeouts, 24%. His WOBA is a little high, up at 345. But I think you could look at picking on a Royals team. I don't love it, but for 6,700, I think I'd leave him in there. Sproat at 6,500 to me is the steal. I think the other guy maybe I could stomach playing is maybe a Cameron if you wanted to go there in that same game there. I don't love it either. If you wanted to leave him in the pool, I don't really mind that. But for me, the guy who stands out is your Brewer boy over there, Sproat. So if he can get the job done, I don't mind putting him together with like a Woo. I think you got great upside. I think it's going to be a little bit different because I still think the other 3 or 4 guys, other 3 guys are going to garner some ownership. So that'd be my favorite pairing, Nades. I think a Woo and then a Sproat combo. And then, even if you want to get different with those, I think I'd probably be a little heavier on Sproat. But then I would probably mix up, throw in a Ryan, maybe then throw in a Schlittler with Sproat. and maybe go along that lines. But yeah, I think that'd be my favorite pairing over on DK.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, Brandon Sproat might be my favorite pitcher on the slate just because it frees you up in terms of bats. We're going to want bats on the slate. I know his control is an issue at times, his leash, but one big thing to note too is they might let Sproat go longer here, Gyiraszin, because if you look at the bullpen, Chad Patrick, which they kind of have brought him in at times, right, with Sproat when he struggles with his command there. He threw 21 pitches yesterday. He's at 51 in the last 3 days. Ashby's throwing back-to-back days. He's at 40 pitches in the last 3 days. So, I mean, they are a pretty taxed bullpen. Obviously, there's other guys in there that are available and can throw. But, I mean, you could see them let Brandon Sproat go if he's kind of cruising in. Even if he gets into a little trouble, something like that. So, I mean, DraftKings has him at 15.5 on the outs prop. FanDuel has them at 14.5, minus 180 on the over. So they're expecting 5 innings out of him. And I mean, I like the matchup for the strikeouts there. He's 5.5 K prop. So I do think he's really interesting at 6,500. He's one of my favorite pitchers on the slate. The other 2 guys down here, like I said, Griffin Jacks right there at 6,700. And then I think you could take a shot if you wanted to on a guy like Yuri Perez. I know it's in Coors Field, but Yuri Perez throws heat. I know he's wild at times, but it's still the Rockies at the end of the day. So if you're looking for a guy, if you really want to go, we know Yuri Perez has the strikeout ability. He gets beat up a little bit from the right side. Rockies haven't quite been striking out great, but if you really wanted to, I think taking a shot at him at 7K, if you needed to, he at least has a ceiling at that price point. But really, my pitcher pool is super condensed overall, and I'm looking at kind of 8 guys, I would say. Skubal, Wu, Joe Ryan, Schlittler, Brandon Sproat, Griffin Jacks are kind of the main guys. And then Kevin Gausman would be kind of that contrarian guy with Canelli early up in that top tier. Go ahead and summarize your pitching before we jump over and talk hitting.
Yeah, I'd be a little bit more condensed. Like I said, I'm a little worried about the pitching upside we see today, especially with all the bats we have. As hot as the weather hitting conditions are today. But yeah, I mean, like I said, my favorite 2 would be Wu and Sproat, and then I'd mix in some Ryan Skubal, and I'd probably throw in some Schlittler. If I was to leave one of them out, I think I'd leave out probably Skubal, just because I'm just a little concerned about his recent buys. Y'all know that I believe in the streaks, so I do believe in those streaks. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think guys like Sproat are going to be high owned. I just think there's enough bats today to kind of mix some things up. I see Josh had questions about Mike Burrows. I can't go there with Burrows. The strikeout percentage is not even close to being high enough. He's just a low strikeout guy. 18% overall. He's 15%. His walk rate's too high, almost 11%. I just don't think this is a day to take a chance on somebody like that. I think I respect the pitching enough to where I think pitching can beat you today. So a lot of times I don't think pitching can beat you. So I'm kind of willing to take chances on, lower price guys and guys that maybe not have the strikeout capabilities. But I don't think today is the day to really kind of fool around with that. I think I'd rather, if I get beat and Sproat goes out and tosses a dud, and I mean, the one thing I am concerned about Sproat, I mean, the Reds are pretty patient as a team. So they're going to make him throw, and he's going to have to get the ball over the plate. So maybe that 10 strikeout game will bring him some confidence, and he'll get the job done. But yeah, that control is definitely going to be a concern. But overall, I think it's a decent pitching slate. And, who knows what we'll see tomorrow or the next few days. But we probably won't see a day like we've seen today with as strong end as pitching. I mean, I think we got the 2 guys that are probably in line, are probably the top 2 guys that could probably win the Cy Young in the American League are on the slate today. I mean, Schlittler is taking the crown from so far from Skubal. So we'll have to see them 2 battling head to head. I know that was a big time conversation here in Detroit. Those 2, duking it out. And it is good hitting conditions in Detroit too. I mean, it's hot here. It's hot everywhere. So, yeah, should be a good one. Should be fun. I'm going to drink me some Corona, or you know what? I actually got some Modelo's, and I got a couple Coronas. I'm going to have me some Mexican beers tonight, Nate. Sit down in this cool basement and chill out and watch some baseball, a little soccer, have some fun, and get me some fun coupons for 4th of July.
Yeah, we love ourselves some fun coupons, and I really don't think Brandon Sprout. I mean, he's going to be owned. He's going to be like 20%. But you're talking Brian Wu is going to be 60% single entry stuff. Schlittler's going to be 45, 50%. And then Joe Ryan, Scuball are going to be right around that Brandon Sprout ownership as well. So between those 5 guys, ownership's really not going to matter outside of Brian Wu, realistically. So I don't really care about Brandon Sprout's ownership at 6,500. There's so many ways, and there's so many different ways. If you just don't play Coors Field, well, naturally, it doesn't matter what the hell you do in terms of pitchers, because the Marlins are going to be super popular, especially after last night. Same thing with the Padres in that Wrigley win game there. So I'm not really too worried about his ownership. He's going to be played. He's not going to be unowned by any means, but he's not going to be like a 50% owned cheap pitcher on the slate, because Brian Wu is just soaking up so much ownership of everybody else that it's really hard for anyone else to kind of get up there. And it's actually pretty easy to fit Brian Wu and Cam Schlittler. That's why you're going to see the cash game pairing be those two, because there's 12 games, 24 teams. There's a lot of cheap bats in good spots. When our pitcher pool is this kind of condensed, when there's 24 arms to choose from, that tells you there's a lot of offensive spots that you could actually go to outside of even the kind of commonality games that everybody's on, right? The Win game, the Coors Field, the Sutter Health, those kind of games, right? There's other spots that you can definitely go to, like the Braves, right? We'll talk about them. Going back to that Red Sox Nationals game, something like that, right? There's definitely spots to go to that you can make it work too. So I really don't think the ownership outside of Schlittler and Wu is going to get anywhere with anybody else on the slate that you even have to worry about it outside of those 2 arms. Let's jump over and talk hitting here. Gyiraszin, first game on the slate is the battle of the AL Cy Youngs. Tariq Skubal, Cam Schlittler on the mound. Don't love this game from a hitter perspective, but I have to do it. I have to call it out. I have to make it known. The lefty masher, Paul Goldschmidt, batting leadoff. I think last time he faced Skubal, he hit 2 home runs off him, or was it Christopher Sanchez? One of the freaks. He's got the old BVP, right? All the BVP truthers out there. He's got 5 home runs against Tariq Skubal. Is Paul Goldschmidt hitting another bomb off your guy who's struggled with some power issues coming back from the IL? Outside of that, I don't love this game on either side. From a hitting perspective, Tigers did some damage last night here. I don't think it's the same spot. Cam Schlittler is just, if he doesn't have his own stuff, he's going to beat himself rather than the Tigers beat him up, I think. But how do you see this game in terms of offense to kick us off?
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth with Mr. Goldschmidt. I mean, he did get him twice last time. So that was his last time he started too. So, yeah, I mean, Goldschmidt's been absolutely smashing. He's at a 5.16 WOBA on this season against lefties, and that's unbelievable. So, yeah, he's definitely in play. But you look at the rest of that Yankee lineup, I mean, they got Ahmad Rosario. I mean, if he's batting in the 2-hole, I mean, it's just not one of their strongest lineups that they're throwing out there. So, yeah, I'd be a little concerned about some of the pitch hits, and I'm not really concerned about really playing any of these Tigers against Schlittler. I think they're going to end up having a handful of strikeouts here in this game. So I do like Schlittler a little bit. I don't like really any of the hitting. The only guy even worth mentioning, as you said, was Goldschmidt.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. It's just kind of closing your eyes, throwing darts at the wall to really get to much else in this game. You do have the old leverage word on a guy like Cam Schlittler, but I just don't love picking on a guy that just limits hard contact, doesn't really get barreled up, keeps the ball on the ground, has a 30% strikeout rate. It's kind of tough sledding there. Dylan Dingler, I would say, just because the position, he's been really, really good all year long. He's going to put the ball in play, has a ton of power, and guys like Shea Langeliers up in that range. The cheaper catchers in the Cubs game, Hunter Goodman, things like that are going to be super, or not super, but much higher owned than a guy like Dylan Dingler with similar ceiling. So I think he is a fairly intriguing play, as just kind of a spend up to be contrarian at a catcher position. But yeah, not too much else to really like in that game outside of Paul Goldschmidt being kind of the focal point there. A really solid one-off, I think, on this slate. Next spot, Mets, Blue Jays, Kevin Gausman, Nolan McLean on the mound. 2 pitchers that you didn't really have interest in. I definitely had a little bit more interest than you did in a guy like Kevin Gausman here. He has not been great as of late, but I'm more betting on long-term talent with a guy like Kevin Gausman and picking on the Mets. I know you can say what you want over the last 30 days or so. The Mets have started to hit. Pull it back to the current season. They're about a 22% strikeout rate team. Don't have a ton of power. And Kevin Gausman, I think, can navigate his way. Juan Soto, I think, is an interesting spend-up, one-off, contrarian outfield that's really not going to get played much on the slate due to the Dodgers and Coors Field, Wrigley, things like that. Guys like PCA are going to be much higher owned than a guy like Juan Soto with, again, similar ceiling. So I think he's fairly interesting. Outside of that, I don't really love it. You can always stack against a guy like Nolan McLean who can walk himself right out of the inning or right out of the game. Don't really think Toronto is a very intriguing stack, though, on a 12-game slate with much better hitting environments on the slate. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I mean, without some of the heavy hitters we had today, I would take a chance on Gausman because we love picking on the Mets. I don't like any of the Mets offense. In my opinion, that team already sailed in the ship. They don't even give a shit, in my opinion. I mean, that other day Soto looked like he was half-assing a fly ball. I mean, it just don't even seem right. So I'm a little bit out on the Mets. The Blue Jays, I couldn't really play either. I really don't like the park. McLean hasn't been all that good here in recent times with his control to the left side. The last month, he's been at a 14% walk rate, 11% walk rate to the right side. So I'd be a little bit concerned. Like I said, if you were looking at McLean, but I just don't like what we're looking at with this Blue Jay lineup. I mean, I guess if you wanted to look at somebody like Lucas, if you wanted to go there, maybe for a one-off, but I don't like it. It'd be way down my list. I don't even think I'd have him in my top 10, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. I'm with you as well. Takes us to the game I do have interest in. Definitely on one side here. Red Sox did their job for me last night until Coors Field went crazy in late in that game when the bullpens came in, which is always obviously you're at risk of, especially when it's the Marlins and the Rockies facing off against each other when both of their bullpens are horrendous. Boston, I think, is super interesting here. You got a really, really bad Nationals bullpen. Cade Cavalli is not good. I'm not a believer in him. I know Boston is not a great offense, like I said, but I'm back in on some Boston here. They're fit the script for a sneakier stack that I'm interested in with some upside on the slate. Siegler's been really good. Duran pissed me off yesterday with his donut, so naturally he'll come back and probably go double dong here tonight. Contreras got ejected after tapping his helmet, walking to the dugout yesterday after he hit a bomb. He K's in his second AB and taps his helmet, walking to the dugout, and the umpire throws his ass out of the game. Durbin's been really good. Abreu looks pretty solid. You got some cheap guys in the back half and bat and leadoff in Yoshida and Chi Cheng. I think the Red Sox have a spot on the slate. It's really good hitting weather here tonight in Fenway, which is kind of the nature of the slate. But in Fenway, mid-80s, 10-mile-an-hour wind or so, blowing out kind of the left field. It's going to play definitely above average for hitting, and you should see some runs in this game. And I like betting on bad bullpens and a bad starter in Cavalli. So sign me up for some Red Sox as a contrarian low-owned stack. I'm right back on the well. And Nationals I don't love, but again, I'll bring up Curtis Mead, lefty masher there. Dylan Cruz hits lefties well. And then James Wood and CJ Abrams are in play any slate. James Wood went lefty-lefty to lead off the game yesterday. Just an absolute tank. He's live anytime he's on the slate. Early's not going to go a complete game there, so he's probably going to have later in the game or even in the mid part of the game, a righty to tag one on. So James Wood, another spend up to be contrarian at an outfield position where guys like PCA, again, going to be much higher owned. I do think the Red Sox are pretty interesting here, though. Talk to me, Fenway Park.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Sox definitely interesting just because that Nats bullpen sucks balls. But, I mean, you look at Cavalli, he's been pretty consistent this year being at 5-6 innings. So, I mean, if we can get him at 5 innings and then we can end up, getting a Red Sox team, I mean, we may only get, if they got the lead, we may only get 3 innings of at-bats against that bullpen. But, I still think, if Cavalli goes 5, I think we can definitely get the job done with some of these Red Sox if you wanted to go there. I don't have it that high up my list, but I don't mind picking on that bullpen at all. The other side of the game, I'd rather use the Nats, when they're facing a righty. I mean, Dylan Cruz maybe is a guy that, you could look at cheap outfielder if you wanted to have some upside for some power against Early, who has been getting hit hard. He's got a 12% barrel rate, 338 WOBA, 181 ISO against the right side. So I just don't like the right side of the national lineup. So I don't really care for a stack, but I think the Red Sox would be in play for me if I had, like 20 teams or so. I probably have a piece of the Red Sox a little bit just because, you never know with that bullpen, man. That thing can unravel really quick, turn into a softball game. We already do like the park for some runs. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a low-owned stack that does have some upside. I mean, we're sitting there at a game total of 9, which most of them are. But in Boston being a 131 favorite, yeah, I think the Red Sox definitely in play.
Yeah, Siegler would be my favorite guy. Batting leadoff, 2,400. He's been red hot, switch hitter as well. Rafaela, Abreu, Contreras. That top 4 is really interesting. I don't really want to mess with the guys at the back half, specifically guys like Narvaez, but this lineup is actually better than their lineup yesterday, and they looked pretty damn good yesterday. Like I said, I mean, you got 2,200 Chang, 2,400 Siegler, and then you can go to Rafaela, Abreu, Contreras at low 4s and low 5. I think they have a spot on the slate. I don't put them super high up my list, but when you add in the Nationals bullpen there, and I know Cavalli's been decent this year. I just not a Cavalli guy personally myself. So above average place to hit here tonight. I think it's pretty interesting overall to play some unowned Red Sox. Definitely Siegler would be a really, really good one-off or mini stack on this slate at 2,400 at a weak second base position. I like quite a bit. Next game on the slate, we are going to Atlanta, Truist Park. It's going to be extremely hot out there in hot Atlanta. No really wind to worry about in terms of wind blowing out or anything. It's slightly blowing out, maybe out towards that chop house in right field. But it's going to be 91 degrees, dew point of 73, so very, very humid. The ball should be flying in Atlanta, and Atlanta has the boys in there. Drake Baldwin's been ice cold, but, I mean, Matthew Liberatore on the mound is not a great pitcher by any means. I know he has some strikeout stuff at times, but Atlanta, I think Atlanta's super interesting here as a low-owned stack. And then we got a really bad bullpen behind Matthew Liberatore there, which he's only been going around 80 pitches, 82 pitches, low 80s anyways. So you're probably looking at 4 to 5 innings of that bullpen behind him. I think Atlanta is really, really interesting as a team that has one of the best offenses in baseball all season long. They're going to be unowned on this slate, and they have favorable place to hit. So I think they're pretty interesting for sure. Definitely Ozzie Albies, who I love anytime he hits from the right side against a lefty. I think he's really interesting. Mateo, Dubon have been solid this year. You got a cheap catcher in Joey Bart, who has power, especially against lefties. A little bit of pinch hit there, but I think they're pretty interesting here. Talk to me, Atlanta and St. Louis in Truist Park.
Yeah, I think Atlanta is definitely interesting. Liberatore has not been good his last few starts out. He's been pretty bad. I mean, he's given up 6 home runs in his last 11 innings over 3 starts. He's gave up 15 earned runs during that same time. And then you look over at his last 30 days, what he's been looking like. His WOBA to the right side is 453. ISO is 384. And he's been getting barreled up at a 16% rate. Not good, like you mentioned, Albies. I mean, all these righties. So I don't expect to see too much of him. And then we're going to get that bullpen. And then we're going to get they're going to get into the lefties up at the top of that lineup. Baldwin, Albies flipping it back around, Olsen and Harris. So, yeah, I think they could definitely be a team that could be at the top of the run scored here today, that being the Braves, especially against that bullpen and Liberatore. I mean, I think they're going to get to them pretty quick and kind of often. So, definitely like that one. The other side of it with St. Louis against Perez. I mean, it's just so hard to pick on Perez with his ground ball type nature. He doesn't really give up any fly balls. He hasn't been getting barreled up really at all. So I don't really have any interest in the Cardinals, but Atlanta for sure, I think is definitely interesting at home against the guy who's just been struggling. And like you said, a bad bullpen.
Yeah, Dubon's been really, really good, especially over the last month. Albies, Mateo, Joey Bart. All of those guys, even Eli White, big pinch hit risk there. But again, if the game's kind of out of hand, and who knows, maybe St. Louis brings in a lefty out of that pen too. You don't really know what's going on there. And definitely don't sleep on Matt Olson, Michael Harris, Drake Baldwin, even lefty to start the game, because I don't expect Liberatore. I expect the Braves to kind of hit Liberatore out of that game fairly easy or fairly early as well. So yeah, on the Cardinal side, Jordan Walker, another contrarian spend up with some upside. Don't love picking on Martin Perez like you mentioned, right? Just kind of, he doesn't really have upside in terms of DFS, what we care about, but he's a serviceable enough real life pitcher. Kind of doesn't really get blown up too much. Keeps the ball on the ground. That's kind of why he's not really in play at 7K or 7 whatever he is, 7,500 or 7,200, excuse me. But I will say Velasquez, Walker, Herrera, those kind of guys that hit lefties pretty well. Won't be the worst plays, but yeah, definitely more Braves interest for me. Next spot here, my Brewers. I did not call the hotline. The roof was open yesterday, and if it was open yesterday, I think it's probably open. I don't know if someone in the chat can help us out there. I did call it before the show yesterday, like I said, and it was open. Today, I did not, so I'm not sure if it's open again. But either way, Rhett Lauder, rinse and repeat. We were on the show a week ago today, Gyiraszin, and the Brewers let us down in Great American Small Park. They didn't really go crazy yesterday, but Lodolo is a much better pitcher, in my opinion, even than Rhett Lauder. Lauder is absolutely horrendous against lefties. We know the Brewers are not good or not great against left-handed pitching in general, but they are one of the better offenses in baseball against right-handed pitching. Jake Bauers looks like an elite play. Garrett Mitchell, Turang, Hamilton. I love all the lefties here. Yelich even. And then Jackson Churrio's been red hot over the last month. He's really good. Contreras has seen good baseballs right now too. I think the Brewers, another sneaky stack that I kind of put in that same Atlanta category that have a lot of upside. And we know we love picking on that Reds bullpen as well, which is not very good. And if you look at the bullpen, they used 3 arms yesterday. Petty threw 43, so he's going to be unavailable. The rest of them are pretty rested overall, but I do think they have upside here in this game. Probably put them. They're not like my top stack or by any means, nothing like that. But in like a Brian Wu, Cam Schlittler team, something like that, if you can somehow fit in the Brewers or something like that to get off some of the other chalkier offenses when you're eating the chalk pitching, that's a spot where I think the Brewers have a spot on the slate. Talk to me here. How do you see the Brewers and the Reds?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Brewers anytime they're not seeing a ground ball pitcher, which Rhett Lauder definitely is not against the left side. He gives up a high fly ball percentage, 37%. He's getting 15% barreled up by the left side. So, yeah, I mean, but my issue is, how long is this dude going to last? I think, what do the Reds have? 2 or 3 lefties in their bullpen. So, I do get I am concerned about the bottom half of the lefties in the lineup for pinch hit risk for the Brewers. So I'd just be a little bit concerned about that. But other than that, I think the Brewers, outside of those games that are the weather spots that we're talking about, the Sacramento, the Coors game, and the Wrigley game. I think this one here is a Brewer team that I put them in the same bucket as like the Braves. Like, I think they got upside to be, a team that could definitely get the job done here. That Cincinnati bullpen isn't all that great, but I'm just concerned a little bit about the pinch hit risk, because I know you're going to see a guy like, Mitchell or Frelick be, oh man, this cheap, I can throw them in my stack. And then, they might see 2 at bats. So I would just be a little bit concerned about that. I'm not concerned about Yelich or, anybody like that. Turang, they're not getting pitch hit. Turang ain't getting pitch hit for nobody. But, but other than that, I don't like any of the Reds bats here against Sproat. I'm not going there. But I do like the Brew Crew, even maybe more of a little bit of a mini. They are expensive though. A lot of the Brewers are expensive, and the ones that are cheap are the ones I'm kind of concerned about getting hit for anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Frelick's definitely a pinch hit risk. Hamilton too as well. And then who else? Probably Garrett Mitchell,
right? Vaughn.
Yeah, probably Garrett Mitchell as well, because Vaughn is on that shelf. So as soon as they bring in a lefty, Vaughn's going to come off the bench for sure. But Ortiz and probably Pratt as well. Cooper Pratt probably also would come in pinch hit. So Pratt would probably come in for a guy like either Ortiz or Hamilton. And then Vaughn would probably come in for, one of those other guys, like probably like a Mitchell or something like that. And they'd probably throw Bowers out to the outfield, something like that, or who knows what happens there. But again, if they jump on them, there's less risk of pinch hit too. So yeah, we see that one pretty close. Eye to eye there. Takes us into Kauffman Stadium with the new park dimensions there. 100 degrees at the first pitch with 15-mile-an-hour winds blowing straight out to left center field. The entire duration of this game, there's going to be heavy winds and 90-plus degrees the whole duration. Really, really good hitting environment here. Griffin Jacks, I did have a little bit of interest in him just because he's $6,700 with some strikeout ability there. But you have to assume both sides of these teams are definitely in play, especially in larger field tournament stuff, as kind of a pivot off the other weather games, right? We'll call them all weather games. This one's right up there with those as pretty similar hitting conditions. It's 100 degrees, like I said, 15-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. Noah Cameron definitely has downside. He is a lefty, so Yandy Diaz, DeLuca, Caminero, Velati look absolutely incredible at the top half. There is some pinch hit guy risk there. Aranda, I think don't sleep on him either because, again, he's not going to be in there the whole time. It's hard to choose between Aranda and Yandy Diaz. You're going to get Aranda at a fraction of the ownership there. And, again, Noah Cameron probably not going to go, obviously, the whole game for sure. So you have late inning upside with a guy like Aranda in the stack. Back half of the Braves lineup, I don't love a ton because of the pinch hit risk there, but you do have a Taylor Walls who's cheap. Talk to me here in Kauffman Stadium. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I don't really have any interest in any of the Royals bats, but Tampa, Caminero, this dude's just a beast, man. He is just a flat out beast. He's got a 393 WOBA against lefty. You got Cameron on the other side who doesn't get that many ground balls and has been getting hard hit recent times here by righties. I think you're just looking at a reason for Caminero have to hit a home run here today. So he's the only one I really like. It's just, some of these guys up at the top are fairly cheap. I think you could use them as a one-off, or a mini stack. Actually, I prefer it. You can throw in Diaz in there, get Caminero in there, and then just decide, Velade or DeLuca if you want to go that route, Aranda, if you said. But, yeah, I think that'd be more of a mini type stack if you wanted to use, one of these other top teams that we're going to be coming into here as we get through these games. But, yeah, I think they're definitely in play. I do like the Braves and Brewers a little bit more than I do like the Rays.
Yeah, I think that top four, that 1, 2, 3, 4 with Velade, Caminero, Yandy, DeLuca makes a ton of sense. They all murder left-handed pitching. It's a really good place to hit, and the Kansas City bullpen is atrocious behind Noah Cameron. So if they jump on Cameron early, you're going to see some pretty bad arms coming out of that pen there, which is also which is already not a good bullpen. Like I said, they are rested, so you're going to see probably a lot. I won't be shocked to see 3 or 4 arms come out of that pen and kind of play 1 inning each. So don't love rested arms. And I agree with you. I do have them kind of behind definitely the Brewers and even the Braves for sure. But Caminero, I think, is one of the better plays on the slate as a whole. Bobby Witt, again, spend up to be contrarian at shortstop. 6,100 feels expensive there, but he has as much upside as anyone on the slate. Caglione has finally started to hit the baseball more, so I think he's interested. Just kind of power hunting is kind of how I see that game because it is favorable conditions, and then you don't take on quite as much of the pinch hit risk that the Rays can have, and even some of the Royals guys for that matter. Takes us to Wrigley, the win game here. You got probably the second highest owned team on the slate behind the Marlins is going to be the Padres here. I heard a shit ton of Ty France slander in the Discord here talking about how bet is over of 3 home runs. He's hitting 3. He's a lock. I don't know. The Padres, I don't think – Matthew Boyd isn't a he's not a gas can by any means. He still has strikeout ability. I mean, he's at a 29% K rate. Yeah, he gives up some power and some barrels to the right side. But again, I say the same thing every time the Padres are in one of these spots. The wind don't fucking matter when you don't hit the ball off the ground. And this entire Padres lineup, the only dude in the entire lineup that hits the ball in the air against left-handed pitching is Manny Machado. So yeah, is Manny a good play? Absolutely. He's too cheap at the price point in these conditions. But the rest of the stack, I'd much rather play the Marlins again. I'm going to take an underweight approach on the Padres chalk. I'd rather play the Marlins. I'd rather play a cheap Boston team at similar salaries, things like that. I don't love San Diego here tonight. It's just the way it is. Matthew Boyd is a serviceable enough real life pitcher. I trust him enough. Machado, I think, is the only guy I do have interest in. On the other side, though, I do think the Cubs are super interesting. They get a fly ball guy in JP Sears to both sides of the plate with wind blowing out, super hot and humid in Wrigley. You do have the good bullpen, like I said yesterday, but Carson Kelly, Dansby Swanson, Suzuki, Ian Happ, those four guys for sure. And then PCA has been really, really good this whole month. Nico Horner is solid against left-handed pitching. He's going to put the ball in play. He's always viable to steal a base as well, which is some added upside there. Talk to me. How do you see a Wrigley game?
Yeah, just like a cracky, I'll go right back to it again, like pulling that last 100 out your pocket at the blackjack table, Nades, after they already smoke you for 2 shoes in a row. I'm going to turn it around. It's going to turn around. Cubbies are going to do it this time. But, I mean, what I'm looking at here is Sears just not very good at keeping righties off the scorecard. I mean, 349 WOBA last year. His ISO was 243. He came back off the IL. He's got 25 plate appearances, 19 against the right. I mean, he hasn't had much going on this year. He got barreled up again against the righties this year. So I think that is definitely a problem. His ground ball percentage was low. He had a 37% fly ball percentage. So yeah, I mean, guy like Suzuki, I think, is in play. Horner, Bregman. I mean, do we believe in Swanson after those couple big games he had there? So I think the Cubbies are definitely in play. I got a few teams higher than the Cubbies. We're going to get there. But, I mean, we're sitting there looking at a game with a high total, 11.5. As you said, I don't like the Padres either. I'm always one to sit and tell you, I don't like a ground ball team against a ground ball pitcher. I just think there's other spots always to explore. The only guy we're going to be wanting to even look at, I think, is Machado, like you said. And nobody else is even really in play for me. So, you talk about Ty France. I mean, he's got a 15% fly ball rate against the left side of the plate, 53% ground ball rate. So, I mean, pretty good chance he's going to end up hitting a ground ball in the dirt here tonight. So, either way, I do think the Cubbies are in play. It's just, I feel like, I've been playing them here recent times in these, where you feel like you got extreme conditions, Nades. And I think I've bitched about 3 or 4 times so far this year. It just seems like, and I'll keep bitching about it too if I keep falling for it. It's just a reminder for myself, and I'm helping you all along the way, just to show you that, sometimes, shit don't work out as plans, like getting, aces and hold 'em. Don't mean you're going to win the hand when that jackass next to you wins with his king, queen and beat you. That shit always pissed me off. But either way, Nate, yeah, I definitely think this game's in play. I can't fault you if you want to play some Padres. If you want to say, oh, Boyd's coming back off the IL, he's not been good. He's, if you wanted to go that route, but man, this ain't even the team to even think about doing it with. The Padres aren't even any good. I don't see. And if we're not going to play the Padres in this kind of scenario, when are we going to play the Padres? Like, I don't want to play the Padres. So Padres are going to be on my Royals list, like from last year. They're up.
Yeah, I definitely am off the pods here for sure. The only guy I really have any interest in is Machado, like I said. But I did want to call it the Padres did use 5 relievers yesterday. Mason Miller only threw 7 pitches, so he's likely available. But Kyle Hart's probably not available. He's at 48 in the last 3 days. Mauricio is at 45 in the last 3 days. He hasn't pitched for 2 days, so maybe they bring him in there. But I mean, they're pretty taxed. So you do have some taxed arms, even though as good as they are. And if they jump on Sears early, maybe you could see the Padres just punt this game with the wind and the conditions here. So I definitely like the upside for sure of the Cubs, and you're going to get the Cubs much lower owned than the Padres side. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with their price points because the Padres are dirt cheap. I mean, you got two 2K hitters projected in this lineup. A $2,600 Ty France hitting the heart of that lineup. Andujar, $2,800, heart of that lineup. Machado, $3,900. That's why the Padres are getting ownership, because it allows you to play Cam Schlittler, it allows you to play Brian Wu, and it allows you to play Miami Marlins in Coors Field facing Tanner Gordon, right? So it all checks out and it all makes sense. I just, for value, right? I see our guy Philly Phantom asking about value. At the price points, give me the Red Sox. Give me the Red Sox over the Padres. It's similar price points. Red Sox might be a little bit more expensive, the guys you want to play, but they're still dirt cheap. I mean, you got a $2,400 Siegler batting leadoff, right? So I do think I'd much rather play the Red Sox side than the Padres personally myself. Next game on the slate, Burrows, Joe Ryan. No Astros outside of Jordan. Jordan, I think, is an elite one-off again on the slate, 6K. Nobody's getting to him against Joe Ryan when they can click PCA. They can click the Rockies outfielders. They can click the Dodgers outfield, the Marlins outfielders, right? Jordan just can't get played on the slate, and anytime that's the case, he's an elite play. Byron Buxton kind of fits the same script. Nobody's going to play Byron Buxton, and he's been one of the best hitters as of late, and he's 5,900 against Mike Burrows, who I don't think is that great either. Twins, kind of sneaky on this slate. We know the Astros bullpen's bad behind Mike Burrows. The Twins scored some runs yesterday late in that game. And I think they're kind of interesting here again, looking at Houston's bullpen. They're fairly taxed as well. What do you see? How do you see this? I think the Twins fit much better as kind of a mini stack than a full stack here. But again, not a great starting pitcher, a bad bullpen behind, full 9 inning at bats. Things do check out is they have a spot on the slate as kind of salary saving upside plays overall.
Yeah, if you were to ask me who my favorite cheap stack is, it would be the Twins against Burrows. Burrows has just been horrible against lefties. 15% K rate, 11% walk rate. His ISO's 266, WOBA 416. No ground balls, no fly balls. I mean, this dude has been getting barreled up at 11%. I just I want no part of it. I mean, you could always play Buxton, don't get me wrong, but like Cody Clemens, Bell, Lee, Caratini, I think all those guys, Larnach up at the top, they're all fairly cheap too. So I think that would be the cheap value stack that I do think has some upside just because Burrow has been so bad. I'm not really afraid of that bullpen either. And the Twins are kind of cool because like Lee and all them guys, you can move them all around in different spots. Clemens, like you can kind of move them in and fill like different spots to help you get the guys you want in your other stack. So, definitely for the Twins for me would be one of the first value teams we're looking at. And then, we're going to get kind of down the road here. I think, the Giants, the Twins, and I think a team like the Red Sox or for me would be the low-owned ones in Brewers that I'd kind of look at outside these high-end games. So, but yeah, I think this one is definitely one of my favorites just because Burrow's just been so bad against lefties.
Yeah, no Buxton in the lineup, which makes it just overall cheaper. I mean, you got less pinch hit risk as well. So guys like Larnach and Cody Clemens probably have a little bit less pinch hit risk there. Burrows has been atrocious, and if I told you these numbers, Gyiraszin, over the last month against right-handed pitching, a 247 ISO. 378 WOBA with a 17% K rate against the pitcher who's striking out 16% of the hitters, a 266 ISO, a fly ball rate almost 30%, a barrel rate over 10%. Would you sign up for them? I think I would, right? And
yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, people aren't gonna because their name says Minnesota Twins, right? So everything does check out. I'm with you there. I'm in on the Twins here. I think they're super sneaky on the slate and locked in for 9 innings of ABs here as well, which I do like. Takes us to the next game, Coors Field, the last game before we get to the night window. Yuri Perez, Tanner Gordon. Tanner Gordon's not any good for sure. Marlins don't hit a lot of home runs, but they will swipe bases as well. They hit 2, I think, yesterday. Tanner Gordon has Ks to the left side, but also gets barreled up and gives up a shit ton of power. So guys like Graham Pauley, Owen Casey, Kyle Stowers, Koning, Joe Mack. I mean, all of these lefties can hit for power. Joe Mack, I think, is super interesting if he's in that lineup as a dirt cheap catcher there. I mean, the Marlins going to be highest on stack on the slate, right up there with the Padres. It's probably those two for sure, and then kind of everybody else. Talk to me. How do you see this one? Marlins, Rockies, Coors Field.
Yeah, I kind of like both sides of this one, to be honest. Yuri Perez just, I mean, he's getting beat up a little bit by righties so far this year. His WOBA's high, his ISO's high, 297 ISO, 356 WOBA. His ground ball percentages aren't that great. He's been getting barreled up quite a bit, 16%. We know, Goodman is sitting on the other side. Carrig, I think, is in a decent spot. So I think the Rockies are definitely in play for me. And on the other side, I really don't know what we're going to get out of Tanner Gordon. I mean, he just come back off the IL. Like, how long is he going to go here? Is this going to be more of a bullpen type game, I think, for the Rockies, which is kind of leaning towards? So, I mean, I think the Marlins can get the job done here. I think both teams are interesting for me. I don't have them as either one is my favorite stack. I think the Dodgers are my favorite stack. We'll get to that. But, for me, I think both of these two are in the top five. I think, you could play it either way. I don't mind it. I really like both sides, to be honest with you. I think both sides for me are in play. I don't think I'd really want to do a game stack, but I do think with, the 3 games we're sitting here at an 11, so you take the 6 teams. I'll take the Padres out, so that leaves us 5 of those teams. I'll take the A's out. So I still think for me, these two are a top, those 2 teams are definitely top 3 or 4 offense, top 2 or 3, 4 offense today, depending how you see it.
Yeah, I definitely have the Dodgers number 1 for me, and then I have the Cubs up there as well. But these 2 teams are definitely in my top 5 as well, both sides. Like you talked about, Hunter Goodman's an elite play on the slate. Righty, he's been mashing righties, especially over the last month. Yuri Perez has actually been more reverse splitsy this season in terms of power, which we like to chase for fantasy upside. There's no wind blowing out here tonight, but we know it's Coors Field and it's super hot in Coors overall. So yeah, all things check out. Really good spot on both sides for sure. Next spot on the slate, Mariners and the Angels. Brian Wu, best overall play on the slate from a starting pitching perspective. For all the BVP guys out there, Joe Adell has like 3 home runs, I think, or something like that off of Brian Wu. So go ahead and go run to the window and bet Joe Adell home run, because BVP is real and it always has to happen. But go ahead and break down this game. I don't love this game from offense on either side. More of a night slate, if anything, but main slate, don't really love it. I know you're going to get some leverage off of Brian Wu, but I think I'd rather just not play Brian Wu and just trust one of the other spend-ups like a Schlittler or even like a Kevin Gausman or something like that to outscore him in that range than to go and run and play some of these Angels. But yeah, talk to me. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I'm not interested in any bets in this one. We're going to sit at a game total of 7. I'm not going there. We got too many offenses, too many teams here today. So as I say, you can just chalk this one off and we can move on through because we got 2 decent ones here coming up.
All right. Takes us to the next one. Jeffrey Springs in our life here and now gets to face the LA Dodgers in Sutter Health. Really, really good hitting environment, obviously, here tonight. Super hot. Overall, we know this park plays really, really well. Dodgers got to Gage Jump, who's looked really, really solid this year, and now get a much worse pitcher with 90 degrees, 15-mile-an-hour winds blowing straight out the whole duration of this game, and a bad A's bullpen behind him. And for that matter, a taxed A's bullpen is at that as well. They used 3 arms yesterday, 51, 15, 18 pitches. Dodgers, I just flat out my top overall stack on the slate. I know they're not the best against left-handed pitching, but I don't care when it's a shitty lefty and he gets barreled up and hit hard by both sides of the plate. So I don't really care what the Dodgers look like. Muncy, Ohtani, Pages, Tucker, Betts, all of these guys are in play for me. You're going to have probably a super cheap Chucky Robinson. If he makes the lineup, either or, even if Rushing's in there, I don't mind him. I love the Dodgers here. They're my number 1 overall stack on the slate. It's not going to change. They're locked in for 9 inning at-bats, and their ownership's going to be a fraction of that of the Marlins and the Padres. I mean, you can double the Dodgers ownership and you're still going to be equal, if not lower than both of those stacks completely. And sign me up for the best offense in baseball overall. I know they haven't been great to their extent, but they've set such a high standard that everyone says they're underperforming, and they're still the best offense in baseball. Talk to me. How do you see it?
Yeah, I see it that Jeffrey Springs sucks. The last 30 days against righties, Nades, his WOBA is 502. 27% ground ball rate, 47% fly ball rate. It's just, he's just not been good. 422 ISO. It's just, he's been bad. So, I mean, you're going to come up and rolling up on the Dodgers, Pages, Betts, Teoscar. I think they're all in really good spots. So, as you said, the bullpen stinks. I got the Dodgers number one all the way across the board. For me, Shohei, obviously a top bat. And then, you look against Wroblewski. It's just so hard for me to pick on Wroblewski in that Dodger bullpen. So I'm not going there. I do prefer to pick on the, to play the A's when we're looking at a righty. So I'm not going there picking on Wroblewski. But, yeah, Dodgers for me all the way. I think I'd be overweight on the Dodgers more than anybody else. I'd rather play the Dodgers twice as times over than I play the Cubs today.
Yeah, I love the Dodgers. I'm with you there. I will say Shea Langeliers, an elite one-off on the slate, murders left-handed pitching. Guys like Hunter Goodman. There's going to be enough catchers that are going to kind of pull from each other that you don't really have to worry about ownership there. Bolte, Kobe Thomas, who hit a bomb last night, I think. Just picking off some power. I don't love stacking the A's here, but the A's do get the exact same hitting conditions here. And Wroblewski hasn't been the best this season in terms of strikeouts. He's given up some power, some barrels. So I don't hate kind of power hunting. Even Nick Kurtz, lefty, I think is super interesting there. So that 1, 2, 3, 5, something like that. Those kind of four hitters are the main guys I'm looking at there. I think are interesting there, but I don't love full stack in the A's by any means. Takes us to the last game. The Giants heading into Arizona. Brandon Pfaadt on the mound. Horrendous against lefties, not great even against righties, but does keep the ball on the ground. Doesn't really have a lot of strikeout stuff overall. Devers, Eldridge, two of the better plays in the slate. You do have to choose between them. Luis Arias, Jung-Ho Lee, Gilbert. I mean, you got some cheap lefties in this lineup to attack Brandon Pfaadt, who's not good against lefties. The Giants I have them behind teams like Boston, and even Minnesota in terms of value, but Giants are right there as well as kind of, if you're looking for other value that's off the Padres value chalk, I think the Giants have a spot on the slate for sure. We know that D-backs bullpen isn't horrible, but it isn't amazing by any means. So I do think the Giants are kind of interesting overall. But again, do have them behind, like I said, the Red Sox and the Twins at similar salaries. Talk to me here to round out the slate.
Yeah, I think I'd have the Giants ahead of the Red Sox, but not the Twins. I think just because the Twins are so flexible, stacking them, they fill in some of the middle infield spots is what I do kind of like. But Pfaadt's just been shitty as hell so far this year. I think he even got thrown in the bullpen. The dude's just not been very good. His K percentage, you said, is low. He's getting barreled up at 13.5% to the left side. He's going to see like 6 lefties at least over there here today. As you mentioned, Devers, I think definitely a top play. So, yeah, I think I do like the Twins a little bit more, but I think I'd have the Giants, and then I'd end up with some Red Sox. But, yeah, I mean, the Red Sox, the Braves, I think those are some of the teams that Brewers even that we could look at outside of those big number over total games we got. Those 3 games are sitting at 11. So, yeah, interesting slate, Nades. We got some decent pitching. We got some bats. I mean, 3 games with 11. We got 4 high strikeout pitchers. We got a value strikeout pitcher. Interesting slate, that is for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely interesting slate. Takes us to the end of the show. Your favorite pitching combination, your top 3 stacks, and a home run call for the people.
Sproat and Woo would be my favorite pitching combination on DK stacks. I got I'm going Brew Crew. No, not Brew Crew. Dodgers. Then I'm gonna say Miami, Colorado, Cubs. And then I'll put the Braves in there too. I think the Braves are pretty interesting. And then home run call. I am actually going to go to the Braves, and I am going to say that Dubon will hit a home run.
I like that. For me, I'm going to go Cam Schlittler, Brandon Sprout, and Joe Ryan is kind of the three main guys I'm looking at. Brian Woo's obviously really good, but I didn't want to double down on that. Everybody knows Brian Woo's a great play tonight. For stacks, I'm going to go Dodgers number 1, Cubs number 2, and then I'll throw in the lower owned teams like the Braves, the Brewers, and the Twins to round it out there. My home run call, I'll go ahead and give the people 2. I'm going to go to the A's. I'm going to go to Henry Bolte, a value 3,500. I think he's got legit raw power. Robleski, I'm not super scared of him, and the hitting conditions are elite there. So I like Henry Bolte. And then I'm going to go to Coors Field. I'm going to go to Cole Carrick. Hits another one for us here. So 2 kind of sneakier guys overall that going to hit to the middle of the back half of the order there. So that's going to do it. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. Me and Gyiraszin will be back to break down the main slate for tomorrow afternoon. It'll probably be like a 6 and 7 game split, something like that. 6 early games, 7 late games, something like that. We'll be back to break down that later game or the later slate, usually starting around 5:40 Central Time, somewhere in there. So Gyiraszin and I, like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. But good luck tonight in those contests. Hope to see those Shipping Nation logos at the top. We're out of here. Peace.